Singing for Life. Accidentally taking singing from sheltered accommodation to the Manchester Midlands Hotel. My name is Frances Turnbull. I'm going to tell you the story about a project that crosses before and after lockdown, relating current research to our findings and ending with a few videos. While many found creativity in lockdown, many institutionalised groups did not, and this is how creativity can impact them and the effects of lockdown. Joining in singing is one of the easiest forms of everyday creativity and requires no props. Two friends and I started Think Creative Group in 2018 as a community interest company that could deliver creative sessions as a health and education intervention. We chose to focus specifically on singing, as all three of us had personally experienced the positive benefits that singing offers. I have skills in research and music, Pam has expertise in health and music, and Mel is proficient in music and education. In early 2018, Think Creative Bolton approached the manager of a local residential home who expressed interest in her residents singing together. As loneliness and isolation are common experiences in sheltered accommodation, the manager wanted to give her residents a reason to leave their rooms, meet and build relationships with their neighbours, and improve the mental health and quality of life for her residents. Residents were mainly older individuals with extra needs due to recent bereavement, developing complex health conditions, or physically challenged and needing support. Think Creative Group CIC applied for a grant from the local community and voluntary service to fund 10 singing sessions through a Manchester initiative for older people. Ambition for Ageing were funding a wide variety of creative events that had been organised and sent to local homes and community groups with the intention of encouraging older people to take part in creative activities. To ensure participant interest, funding was only available to groups who were able to present their skill or activity at the residence towards a resident vote. On the day, we discovered that the other activities on offer included people from a local gardening initiative, a school group volunteering to teach IT basics, and a film club. To demonstrate our activity, we helped the residents and audience to learn a traditional African song, Bella Mama, and coordinated them singing in a round, and were grateful to have been voted the top activity. We felt the camera-shy residence manager was key to the entire project, and personally invited every resident to join us. Out of over 30 flats, we had around 20 attendees each session. She attended each session herself, singing along, arranging support staff attendance, and even took a turn leading towards developing her confidence in potentially leading the group without us. One aspect of all grant applications is sustainability, so we had hoped to develop the group to the point that they were able to continue without us, especially as all material included songs chosen by the group. This coincided with a local initiative to get sheltered accommodation residents to form their own committees to arrange activities. Appointing activity coordinators had not been successful previously. Either they did not arrange activities that residents wanted, or they were unable to plan because of their own caring responsibilities. In order to get residents to attend, the manager planned the sessions for after dinner or lunch, and also arranged treats for afterwards. This ranged from tea and biscuits to ice lollies and even Baileys. We provisionally discussed a selection of well-known songs that the group could work on and develop towards a performance for friends and family. We were intrigued that the selection had changed substantially from our care home choir list that were used at nursing homes, indicating the younger age grouping. Almost all songs were still in copyright, so the residents arranged copies of lyrics for those who could read. As I played guitar by ear, I listened to and memorised the music, later writing it out as my own arrangements available on Sheet Music Plus. Over the first few weeks, we got to know the different participants. The recently widowed granddad accompanied by his best friend. The 98-year-old circuit singer and her performing partner surprisingly ending up at the same residential home in their latter years. The rock and roll nana still head-banging in a wheelchair. The ex-army tattooed grandad in a wheelchair who delivered the middle finger when he got frustrated. The late-stage dementia dancing gran whose mum had sung her every single one of our songs. The loud retired fish market worker with a glass eye who wanted us to sing Nessun Dorma. All had had an interesting life with little confidence singing at this stage of their lives. As we delivered the programme, each week the group sang louder, showing that they were musically growing in confidence as we had just sung songs together in unison, singing the same tune altogether. They were eager to be challenged into men or women singing different lines or verses as a first step towards harmony singing, and it was interesting to teach a group to listen to each other to know when to start or stop singing, when many were already hard of hearing. Weekly attendance changed depending on appointments and medical conditions, but on the whole, many changed their plans to accommodate rehearsals. Other signs that they were changing as a group were that they were chatting more to each other during the week, visiting each other in their flats, sharing interests and favourite songs, and generally looking out for each other at mealtimes and other communal events. Despite this, at around week 6 we had a week of bank holidays that meant that we were unable to attend, and despite all having their own lyrics, they found that they were unable to arrange a rehearsal together. This could have been due to the visitor factor, or that there was no dominant personality within the group, or perhaps there were too many dominant personalities. Being a council-owned residence, they were the first to hear about town events. The group were invited to sing in the town square at an Ambition for Ageing promotional event, where a number of activity stalls had also been invited. So, shortly after walking football, it was the turn of our sheltered housing residence choir. Considering their audience was only passing foot traffic in the town square on a mid-morning school day, they were very nervous. To motivate them, their manager arranged bright yellow t-shirts with the slogan, "Life is a song, sing it." This served to help her keep track of her charges, as they had had a chippy lunch together in a local restaurant, as well as to unite the group. Sadly, one of the older ladies became so unwell due to toileting issues at this event that she was unable to join us for the remainder of the sessions, and she was our top soprano. The following rehearsal, week 9, was attended by the Ambition for Ageing Bolton representative to formally invite the group to perform at the prestigious Manchester Midlands Hotel at a celebration event for successful activities. Between the caring and Ambition for Ageing staff, they arranged a small coach for those willing to participate. Some point-blank refused due to nerves, leaving us with around 12 people. The other researcher travelled with the residents on the coach. I had caring responsibilities and could only arrive minutes before the performance and had to leave minutes after. The atmosphere on the coach there was full of nerves and uncertainty, with residents reminding each other to do their best. One granddad and one rock and roll gran were particularly concerned that we made it clear that we'd only practiced over 10 weeks, and of those 10 weeks it was not even 10 hours in total. This is how nervous they were. The hotel was very grand, and their performance was planned to be the third after lunch. With table seating at the front of the hall, near the stage, the residents helped themselves to their buffet lunch and got ready to watch the next acts. Unfortunately, they were scheduled after a very accomplished duo that harmonised beautifully, followed by a small, experienced a cappella choir. With confidence waning badly, the grandad spoke to one of the professional singers, who then promptly came over to express his admiration for the group performing in their older years, some for the first time. The group really took his words to heart when he said that their best would be good enough, and they kept repeating it between themselves as they got set up on stage, wheelchairs and all. Imagine their reaction when the audience started loudly singing along and cheering enthusiastically. They were only allowed to perform 3 or 4 songs, after which they also left, but the trip back was completely different. The residents were on such a high they did not stop singing once on their journey back, and when we went back the next week for our final contracted rehearsal, they were like a new group. Their friends and family performance went off beautifully, with more singers and no nerves at all. We were invited back the following summer after they successfully applied for their own funding towards performing at a summer fair that they were holding to raise money for their residents. Our return was very well received, and the residents were still talking about their incredible experience, with the individual members talking about how proud their children and grandchildren had been. The only members we lost were through death or moving out. Otherwise, we retained all of them and gained a few ones. The summer song selection brought back their bright yellow T-shirts, matched with summer wear, leading to them requesting extra rehearsals and even finding the money independently to pay for our time. This time around, the group showed great interest in learning about timing and rhythm, and we used these to improve starting singing at the same time and coordinating with playing basic percussion instruments. They again wanted to arrange songs where men or women alternated the verses and sang together, so we introduced a song where soloists would be required, a first for both singers, but one that both rose to, supported by their peers. This ended with the manager dressed as Sandy, the grandad dressed as Danny, singing Summer Nights from Greece. Just like before, this went down extremely well with the local residents. Seeing the change in the group since the start, it was frustrating to realise that the group could not organise to sing together without a singing coordinator of sorts, and that this would depend on funding. COVID brought about a few major changes, including the manager retiring, the death of a number of residents, and obviously no visitors until earlier this year. Speaking beforehand to the new manager, she told us how badly the residents had struggled, particularly those with dementia, and that many had died surprisingly, as though just giving up. The change in manager was only the start of the changes. The group had reduced by half. On average, only 10 residents attended the 3 sessions that we'd been funded, and half of these were new to us. The new manager did not stay at the rehearsals, did not sing along, and as the session was arranged just before lunch or dinner, there were no snacks or treats. No water was provided for singers, the furniture was not set up on time, and for the final 2 weeks of the 3, an earlier time had been given to all of the residents in an attempt to get everyone down at the correct time. This went down really badly by those more able, as they had been waiting approximately an hour before, and it reflected directly on us. Despite this, those who had been with us from the beginning still mentioned the Manchester Midlands Hotel, showing how the single performance had made a major impact on them, even at this stage in life. Bonds were still close between these residents, and various activities had been successfully organised by the committee. Residents were confident in questioning pacing of songs, expressing preference of pitch and song choices where there had not been before. Asking whether the group would continue to sing and promising to apply for funding for future sessions, we were told enthusiastically that the committee had agreed to fund a karaoke machine towards continuing to sing. We intend to follow up the frequency of use at future events. Theoretically, our original intention was to determine measurable physical effects or benefits of weekly group singing. We hoped to provide financial evidence of reducing the healthcare burden on the NHS through reduced medical appointments, self-isolation days, hospital stays, and ambulance or emergency attendance. After our initial conversation, we realised that the manager had no control or input over mainly independent resident movement, so we considered requesting blood pressure readings and using monitoring sleeping and eating patterns and outside travel or feelings of loneliness as stress indicators. Management had no access to blood pressure information and advised that residents attended a number of local surgeries which would require written consent from residents or their families if they were unable. Instead, we created weekly individual questionnaires on eating, sleeping, travel and loneliness. But findings proved to be inconclusive due to the age, cognition, variety of medical conditions and the physical ability of the group. From a study originally intended to be scientific, it changed to grounded theory, using observation of events and quotations as the main sources of data collection. The most apparent events that stood out to us included high interest from manager and staff, it being a weekly contributory activity, increased volume in solo singing, increased musical interest, responsiveness to visitors, and responsiveness to performance activity, and the ability to question pace, pitch, and song choice. We identified the following behaviours indicated from these events. The high interest from manager and staff indicated high participant engagement. Weekly contributory activity indicated increased intergroup communication. The louder volume and solo singing indicated increased singing confidence through repetition. The increased musical interest indicated increased musical ability or skill. The personalised repertoire choice indicated increased group commitment. Responsiveness to visitors indicated the inability to sustain weekly sessions without song leaders. The responsiveness to performances indicated a unified and empowered group. And finally, the ability to question pace, pitch, and song choice indicated that personal preferences were able to be expressed over time. The core concepts that we took out of these behaviours were increased levels of relationship, where individuality is appreciated on a personal level; social confidence, where people interact voluntarily without coercion; skill development, where personal capability is increased; motivation, where there is intrinsic impetus to change; and ownership, where people take personal responsibility and accountability for a behaviour. Consulting existing research in the last 5 years, we are aware that group singing may give meaning and lead to healthier ageing, that group support may counter music triggers, group singing may encourage social bonding and aid mental health recovery because it involves interactions between musical, neurobiological, and psychosocial mechanisms, and finally that group singing may build resilience. These match a number of findings from Hendry et al. From this year, who developed the person-centered social activity model. This proposes that group singing may meet psychological needs, including autonomy, connectedness, competence, positive self-identity and self-esteem, based on self-determination theory, cognitive evaluation theory, the social identity theory, and the person-centered approach. While we were unable to identify a direct link to improvements in physical health, we hypothesized that group singing improves a number of personal and social characteristics that are key to mental health. As such, we are using this study to develop our approach into an intervention that may be measured and potentially tested against traditional CBT, especially as professionally led community choirs is named as the first recommended group activity in the NICE guidelines for activities for older people. This video shows the group singing Blackpool Bell in 2019, where you can barely hear me singing despite me leading.
I remember very well all the happy gangs aboard the Blackpool Bell. I remember them pals of mine when I rode the Blackpool line, and the songs we sang together on the Blackpool Bell. Little Piggy Greenfield, he was there, he thought he was mighty slick. He bought a hat on the Golden Mile, the hat said kiss me quick. Piggy was a lad for all the girls, but he drank too much beer. He made a pass at a Liverpool lass and she pushed him off the pier. I remember very well all the happy gang aboard the Blackpool Bell.
Our next video is Edelweiss, where you can see the group doing part singing and learning to listen to each other.
And grow forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bless my home forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, every morning you greet me, small clean and bright. You were happy to meet me. Lost of snow, may you bloom and grow forever. Edelweiss, bless my home.
Our next video shows our dancing Gran, and despite the dementia she still remembers a lot, you can see.
You're as rich as a king, so hold her tight and never let her go. Day and night, let her know you love her so. With the love of your life, spend a lifetime of love, make her yours forever. When the girl in your arms is the girl in your heart, then you've got everything. When you're holding a dream, you've been dreaming of home. You're as rich as a king.
Our next video shows the final scenes of Summer Nights. First solo singing for both of these.
That's where it ends.
So I told her we still be friends.
Then we made our true love vow.
Wonder what she's doing now.
Summer dreams breaks out the seams, but those summer nights. Tell me more, tell me more.
Our final video shows my favourite things, and it shows how loudly you can hear me singing in comparison to the previous videos, and how we are literally starting from scratch.
My favorite things, girls in white dresses with blue satin sashes, snowflakes that stay on my nose and my lashes, silver white winters that melt into springs. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then we'll so fine.
Thank you for watching.